Reverend Celia Apeagyei-Collins is the founder and president of the Rehoboth Foundation International, a cutting-edge equipping organization offering leadership development consultancy, motivational and mentoring programs, and executive coaching. Reverend Celia also runs the mentoring network for leaders from all spectrums of life and a development forum for young and emerging leaders. In addition, she comes alongside pastoral leaders to help strengthen ministries and equip them for community transformations. Reverend Celia has been listed as one of the top 10 most influential Black Christian women in the UK. Her work extends to over 40 countries, and she broadcasts on TBN UK as the host of the trending show Take the Lead. She is convicted that everyone has a specific gifting as well as a sphere of influence within which to effect spiritual change, social reform, and economic development. She is a trustee for International Third World Leaders Association, founded by Dr. Miles Monroe.
Welcome. This is Reverend Celia Apeagyei-Collins. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Lady Tosin. Thank you so much.
It's not just an honor for us. It's a great thing because she is somebody who has heard the voice of God, as I said, and knows what it's like. So tell us, who is... I'm going to just, break protocol and call you Sister Celia. Who is she? And tell us a little bit about, the early days before you became who you are, which is great.
Well, the funny thing is who I am today is who I was yesterday. Well, I'm Ghanaian. My full name is Celia Apeagyei-Collins. I was born and bred in Ghana. I happen to live in the UK at the moment. I grew up local. Love people, absolutely. I think it's my greatest asset. I was born to love people. And so I've always had an affinity with people. I've connected with people. I got born again sometime, I can't remember the specific date because it wasn't an occasion where I was in church. I got born again in my own room when I felt I had a visitation of God. Oh. I wouldn't have called it a visitation of God because I didn't know that then. But what had happened previously was I dropped my mom off at church once and I was on my way home to get changed and go to the beach with my friends. So
you were a full-blown adult.
Full-blown adult doing what children should never do, teenagers should never do, in terms of, your parents don't even know what you're up to.
Absolutely.
So I was going to just go out with my friends and I got to a traffic light and I heard a voice, I thought I heard a voice say, if you go to the beach, you won't come back alive. You've just left church and walked away from God. So I remember going back home quickly. In those days, this church, which turned out to be a cult in the end, but you know what? They didn't allow makeup or anything, so I put a scarf on my head, quickly took off my nail varnish, and headed back into the service. I don't remember much of anything else, except that not so long after that, I felt like God was telling me to write down my sins. I remember writing down 21 sins.
I remember that. I've heard that story. 21 sins.
I don't know what it was about.
So the question would be, what would be 21
I have
sins?
no clue, except for the very obvious ones. That's when I knew, looking back now, that's when I knew it had to be God.
Yes.
Because I wrote things down that I would never have called sin.
I understand. And that's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
Because like you said, you were a full-blown adult, you were just living. Would you say that your upbringing directed you, shaped you into that, like watching mom and dad? Or would you say this...
Definitely not watching dad, watching mom. Dad, if you're listening, no offense.
They are wonderful. So how would you say
mama,
you were shaped?
My mother brought us up to go to church. And godly, she'd always have some godly advice and principles. I learned how to pray. But of course, at that time, I didn't know there was a disconnect with God because you're more religious than you are spiritual with God. So I was very keenly aware of God and I thought I was God's child. Only I didn't read my Bible or I didn't have any intimacy with God. But all things turned when this encounter happened. Now I can call it an encounter. Then I just took it in my stride. I wrote down those sins. I guess I asked God to forgive me. I didn't know much about any of the salvation message because I wasn't going to any church that was directing me. And then I had a dream, and in my dream, Jesus came. I saw Jesus as I would have seen him in a film. But he was in a place that I associated with prayer meetings, where my mom used to go. And so I saw him, and he called me, and he says, speak these words at the river, wash yourself, say these words, and I'll give you a gift. And I remember when I came, like, Jesus, I did it. And he said, receive. I'd never seen that before, and I fell under the power. I had never, ever in my life seen or heard those words or seen anybody fall under the power.
So this is a very important question, because we are here in 20-something, and the question is, would a girl of your nature then, in today's world, would she have heard such a message?
Yes, because God speaks to all of us. The important thing biblically is that God touches everybody in a way that gets their attention. So if he has to speak in a still small voice, he will. If he has to slap you off your donkey or your horse,
he will deal with you
So
shrewd.
God teaches everybody differently. I guess God knew me. Maybe he knew, of course he knew my nature. And he knew to get my attention, he needed to get it maybe in a dramatic way. It wasn't so dramatic to me at the time. Looking back in retrospect now, I guess for somebody else it's dramatic. But it wasn't. It was like, and this is how God works with me. He tells me something, I know it in my knower, I just run with it. I wasn't even sure it was God, but I just did it. Then, of course, what happened was I was hooked when I started to read the Bible. I read the New Testament so much, I changed my name to Pauline.
Oh, I love that.
It was not that.
You need to hold that for me. Did you hear that? She changed her name to Pauline. When we get back, don't change your channel. We're going to hear the story of how Celia became Pauline.
Oh, was it Pauline became Celia?
I will keep your attention. Thanks for staying tuned. See you on the other side. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Inspire, a Dominion television program which we love to bring to you wherever you are. And we were just talking a little bit more with my fantastic guest here, and she is Reverend Celia Apeagyei-Collins. But just before we broke up, she was Pauline. How did that happen? Where did you get that from?
I just fell in love with this great man, this revolutionary thinker, this guy who was unpacking the mysteries of God. And I read the New Testament over and over again, and I just fell in love with him. And I thought, I'd love to be him. Now, remember, I didn't have anybody to teach me. So this was me and the Bible and just reading it.
All by yourself.
And if you were lucky enough to come within my radar, then you got everything.
Oh, you hear it all.
You'd hear it all, and
there is therefore
my
now
own
no
embellished
condemnation.
My own embellished versions as well.
That's fantastic.
So that's how I started.
So that led you into it. So then how did that then transition? And you said you heard the voice of God. So what made you become who you are today?
Well, do you know what? Our becoming is actually a journey. You will never actually hear me use the words the day I got my call.
Okay.
I think we become in a journey.
Because all big reverends like you are asked, when did you hear the call?
Yes.
So.
And I'm not Paul. Actually, in the Bible, there are very few encounters like Paul's. Most people, one of my favorite ones is when it reads like this. And a man found a woman called Jochebed and married her. And the story begins with Jochebed seeing her children at risk, rescuing Moses, but it begins with the ordinariness of life. And for most of us, it begins with the ordinariness of life. Let me address my congregation for a bit. Stop looking for God's call in a big voice or in a burning bush. They're very few and far between. Actually, God is talking to you in the ordinariness of your life. The culture of the kingdom is here on earth in our everyday living. That's why we have farmers, we have fishermen, we have tax collectors, and all of them ministered to people, did the call and the will of God within the context of their everyday living. God's been talking to you. Stop looking for him in a burning bush.
Well, did you hear that? There is no burning bush. It's the still small voice. It's the ordinary things of life.
Well-
so how did that lead you to become
Well, you
that?
know, I'll tell you a little bit of background
Mm-hmm.
first. So I told you about becoming. Becoming is a journey.
It's a journey.
Most of us, you know, let me reverse. So God's call, if you want to know whether God has called you or not, ask yourself if you're alive. The fact that you entered into this world means there was an assignment for you.
Wow, just like that.
Just like
for
that.
everybody.
So you live your life pursuing that with the mindset, with the paradigm that I am here on assignment. I live on assignment. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. When I wake up in the morning, most times I will say, it is written of me in the volumes of your book, I have come, O God, to do your will.
Oh,
Then the
how
next thing I'll say-
inspiring is that?
Well, it said of Jesus. So I want to know that, I want to remind myself, I'm not here doing my own thing.
That's right.
I'm here doing somebody's thing. So I submit and I yield. I want to have fun. I want this adventure called God using me, whether it's to the taxi driver or the kinky seller or to the coconut seller, which I do a lot. I have a lot of fun talking to people in any way God will use
But
me.
Reverend
or to
Celia, you know
thousands.
that is not like the norm for, inspiring leaders like you. You know, you're making it look really natural.
Well, it is natural.
That's the
I
thing.
love it. I tell God, who we going to talk to? I spend time where I live talking to chibom sellers.
But
you know.
some of them make it look so like you can't touch me. You know, I'm a
Well,
person
I'm called
of God.
to people, so I will come to that. Hold that thought for me, because I want to finish what I was saying. And it's very important what you're saying, because I don't want to be irrelevant. Irrelevant people don't connect with people, okay? Everybody's called to connect with somebody.
Irrelevant people don't connect with people.
Yeah, the
I
fact
love
that you don't
I
connect
love
with
that.
people makes you irrelevant, because whatever you're carrying belongs to them. When I wake up, I say, it is written of me. I've
Yes.
come to do your
Yeah.
will, because
Yeah.
that's why I'm here.
That's
why
right.
else would God introduce any of us to this earth? Okay? And then the second thing I do is, so I report for duty.
Oh.
So I'm showing up to say, what do we have to do today?
The
Because in
soldier
all of our
mama.
lives, we're partnering with God. What do we have to do today? Then I report for training, because I'm dumb. I don't know everything. I know everything. And so I'm asking him to teach me, equip me, make me competent for what I have to do. Sometimes he'll speak to you in your heart. Sometimes he'll lead you to read a book or a magazine, or you'll see something. Or sometimes other people talk to you without even realizing it. They're feeding you, they're equipping you, they're resourcing you. Then I finally report to bring him pleasure, because that's why I was born. Now I'm going to finish off with my becoming.
No. I need to recap that. So you declare your purpose. And
Yeah,
then
I submit myself. I make
submit
myself available.
And then you report for duty.
And then I report for
And
duty.
then you report for training.
For equipping and
And then you
training.
enjoy the pleasure.
And then I say, God, I report to bring you pleasure.
Oh,
Because
that's
all things that were made
amazing.
were for your pleasure. I
That's-
want you to smile and say, that's my girl.
Oh.
She's on my job. She's doing what honors me. Because that's why we're all on this earth, is to honor God.
That's
Not to wait for an
amazing.
occasion to honor God, but to
Well.
honor God in that which we do. And so I talked about becoming. And it's linked to when I first got saved. I
were telling me.
used to walk the streets. And you know, when you go to the marketplace or you see people around, they playing their guitar and they're preaching, or sometimes they do dawn broadcast. I'd go to them and I say, Mama, let me say something. I want to say something. I had no idea. Anything I'd read in the Bible that I
For
had
the
no
day.
little understanding of anyway, I would just want to say something. You see, I didn't know anything about a teaching ministry, a preaching ministry, but what I want to say to people who are listening to me today is that you've actually been living out your call without realizing it.
Look at that.
Every one of us have been living out our call. I'll tell you about Big Mo, shall I? We call him Moses. When we first see Moses
Big Mo.
in Scripture, we see him fighting and defending the cause of the oppressed. He's wired to hate oppression. He's wired to hate bullying. So instinctively, he'll fight an Egyptian. Even he'll fight an Israelite, because he hates bullying. When he gets his call, God gives him a bigger playing field and a legitimacy to do what he'd always carried to do. I could go on and on.
Yes, I can see
God
that. It
calls
was
David
happening.
to shepherd Israel, Psalm 78, verse 72, by the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hand. What is David doing before? Shepherding sheep. And God just changes the context. He's a wired shepherd. Every one of us actually are not far from our call. We've been doing it on a small... So all God did was he shaped my life on the streets of Accra. and in circle.
You were not embarrassed? You would just go there and start talking?
Listen to me. What is embarrassment? My father thought I'd gone crazy. He did say the time that I'd gone crazy. I was full of the zeal of God, and I want more of that zeal because I lost some of it. The zeal of his father's house has consumed it. That's how it's got to be for all of us. What is embarrassment? I live to...
Well, you know.
When you're filled with something that people got to be rescued, humanity got to be rescued. You know, we've lost some of that in Christendom today. We've become self-serving and selfish. But when you look at humanity, what do you see? That's where the call comes from. If you don't see a suffering humanity, if you don't see people at a loss because there's no direction for leadership, if you don't see broken humanity that you want to heal, you cannot do the will of God, because God starts with sharing his burden with you.
Reverend Celia, you've blown my mind. And you know, we're going to go away for a break right now. But when we come back...
Do we even have to have a break to go on?
I know.
The producer will kill us.
Yes, I know. Because I want you to
so.
hold that. Because you were leading me to ask how you serve the world. What you have done from that little girl or that young lady who was transformed to where you are today. So... don't go away. I need you. And don't go away, my beautiful viewers. We'll see you on the other side.
Think of my wasted years. So if you're a millennial, it's called YEL, Y-E-L.
Y-E-L.
Yeah, Young Emerging Leaders. You want to be sharpened to think like a leader now. We're grooming them to be CEOs of banks, of commerce, of the different justice, our penal systems, and of every way.
Welcome back, and this is Inspire, and we have been totally inspired by our wonderful guest, and that's Reverend Celia Apeagyei-Collins. I've been blown over by what you've been saying, and you told me and you promised you'd let me know how we can serve the world. How did you do it? How are you doing it? How is that journey of leadership that you have been on?
Well, I'm particularly called to serve the world through developing leaders, because we've heard it said many times, nothing happens without leadership, nothing shifts without leadership, nothing changes without leadership, nothing is transformed, nothing is developed without leadership. Leaders dream of a better society. They have a different perspective of what the future ought to look like, and then they work towards doing that. They mobilize others, they inspire others towards doing that. In actual fact, the chaos and crisis that we see in the world today is it's not a result of just the absence of leaders. It's the result of the absence of good, righteous leadership. And we must be intentional in raising leaders. So that's my call.
And that led you into your ministry? Is that the ministry that you run?
Yes. So I pastored for many years, church planted for many years, and then in the early 2000s, God called me. He said, there's a new season for you. When the season changes, the instruction changes.
Wow.
So God wanted me to travel. I'd always had a burden for leaders anyway. So I'll tell you about, I can tell you a little bit about that. My first church plant was in Ghana in 1992 or 93.
Okay.
And I realized I was such a bad leader. I was a good preacher and teacher. I loved to pray, but I didn't know how to lead.
Self-recognition. How did you do that?
Nobody had taught me how to lead. And I fought it. I thought about it, and it just dawned on me. You're not competent to lead. There's skills that are needed. Leaders manage people, they provide vision, they bring direction, they mobilize people, they discover people's gifts, they bring meaning to what people do, amalgamate different skills together to produce something.
That's
a leader's like a
leader.
conductor, you know?
Yes.
And all of those skills were missing. They hadn't been honed in. So I had to learn those things. I went to Challenge Bookshop, got a book, and then a burden for leadership was born inside of me. And I thought, how many others, thousands of others are like me, struggling right now, fighting with their elders? It's because they don't know how to lead. So then I went to school in America and God, and then I got, I was parented and mentored by Dr. Miles Monroe. Thank God for his life.
Blessed
And
memory.
Yes, a blessed memory. Thank God for his investments in my life. So I'm still growing as a leader, but I have a burden to produce leaders, so and develop leaders, if you like.
So your ministry, it's called?
The Rehoboth Foundation.
Wow.
So we do, part of our strategic delivery is developing and mentoring and coaching transformational leaders, both in the marketplace, and non-Christian spaces, and Christian spaces. Well, they're leading and stewarding something that belongs to my Father. That's what the kingdom is about. We bring kingdom culture to bear in our spaces, in our human spaces.
So you don't make that separation.
There is
this
no separation.
This is Jesus.
No.
This is the world.
Jesus owns the world. And actually, the church is called to lead the world with the principles of the kingdom of God, which can be found in Scripture. I can tell you many stories about leadership in Scripture. We tell stories, but we don't see the principles and the values there. So I take the principles and I use MBA language to deliver it to the world.
Oh, that's amazing. So
it's
like
just about communication.
Corporate Christianity.
It's corporate Christianity. Well, it is Christianity.
Yes.
The Bible is a human book. It's not a book for Christians.
You know, the reason
living.
why I'm saying all this, because everybody thinks that it's, this is them and this is us. And, we have to...
What do you think Joseph was doing? Joseph gave Pharaoh a 14-year economic plan that included agro, human resource, everything. He got it from God.
Look at that.
And Pharaoh was ruling a world. Pharaoh was rivaling God. But Pharaoh is stewarding something that belongs to God.
Yes.
And the
it's like a
Asiatic
counterfeit.
regions. Yes, but whether he's a counterfeit or not, he's sitting on a throne and in a community that belongs to God, in a nation that belongs to God. And God used him to feed the Asiatic nations. Actually, God used Pharaoh to have a prophetic picture of what was about to come, but he didn't understand what was about to come. God used the church called Joseph to interpret what was about to come.
Oh, wow. So
God
your ministry, Rehoboth, I mean... So it has different parts in it?
It has different parts.
How does it serve the world? How does
serves the
Rehoboth
world through
serve the world?
Leadership development and learning programs, like I said, inside the church, outside the church. We also have a young and emerging leaders program for millennials.
The millennials who want to beat us all up, that we are not, the way we serve God. So there is a way they can serve God in today's world.
They must serve God.
They have to.
They have to serve God.
I agree.
Joel talks about generations and gender together to make up the army. And so we raise up millennials to be solution-oriented leaders, righteous solution-oriented leaders, and we expose them to current affairs so they can think beyond the walls of the church, because that's where they live their lives.
I know.
And then we have the Jesus Cares advocacy and welfare intervention. So we're building boreholes, building KVIP toilets. We're actually in the midst of building raising funds to build a CHIPS compound hospital community health facility in some very remote areas in the central region.
So if you had this millennial ministry that you have greatly founded and you're working on, when you were Celia in those days, where you had to take your nail polish off and you had to take...
Think of my wasted years. So if you're a millennial, it's called YEL, Y-E-L.
Y-E-L.
Yeah, young emerging leaders. You want to be sharpened to think like a leader now. We're grooming them to be CEOs of banks, of commerce, of the different justice, our penal systems, and of every way. Leaders are developed. Leadership is a learning thing every day. It's not just like that. It's not definitely not oil on your head and go do it. You need to build competencies and skills. And so we have the Jesus Cares interventions. And then we, of course, have what we call Zion's Hill, which is an apostolic prophetic prayer intercessory movement dedicated to praying for governments, for politicians, for CEOs, not for ourselves.
No.
So we watch over the world. We're watchmen.
Yes.
We watch over our global world, and we have people from every strata of society, CEOs and
picking things up and coming to pray about.
And we're a resource center, so we actually train people to be great watchmen. What's God doing in the heavens? What's the enemy doing on the earth? Where are angels moving so that we can partner? We actually speak things from heaven down. Most supplication is done from up to heaven. We want to actually decree.
You're turning things on its head.
The culture of God.
That's fantastic.
On the spheres of society.
So if you were to give a message, I know we have to wrap up. It's like, I need you. We're going to have a part 2 of this. But I want you to give them a message. Now, this is a message. The audience out there, they're the millennials. They're the leaders. They're the ones who maybe not the right. Give a message that would touch the heart of almost everybody that is watching Dominion Television and watching Celia Apeagyei-Collins. Over to you.
Well, hello there. I've been instructed to give you a message, but I don't need to give you a message. You know why you're uncomfortable? You know why you're dissatisfied with your life? The long weave won't satisfy it. The clothing change won't satisfy it. Everything won't satisfy it. Because you were born for something. Deep is calling unto you. There's something and someone that needs your influence somewhere. And so all I can say to you is follow your instincts. What bothers you? What upsets you? What are you good at doing? Don't divide church from your job. Your job, whether you're a technician, whether you're a clown, let me tell you about this. If you make people laugh, laughter is good medicine for people. God designed you that way. He designed you that you would make people laugh. Everybody on this earth has been called to do something. Instinctively, we gravitate towards that thing. What is an everyday thing that gives you satisfaction more than anything else? That's a clue to your call. Just do it. God is big enough to know when you're making a mistake and to tell the difference when you're being rebellious. Don't be afraid of making a mistake. Make a mistake and let God correct you. But don't you dare be apathetic, because God hates people who don't care about things. The first thing he gave you was not just a gift, but a burden. So you'd feel his pain as he looks down on the humanity. Say, God, give me a pain. God, touch my heart with something. And God, take my hand, and together with yours, let's do something. Every day you wake up, ask yourself, how much did I change my world yesterday? You don't have to change the globe. Just change your streets.
That's right.
Just talk to somebody. Bring hope somewhere. And start there and watch the Holy Spirit build on it.
Oh my goodness.
God bless
I
you.
want to hear more of this. This has been Inspire. And I tell you, I have been inspired. Reverend Celia Apeagyei-Collins, we need you back here. Thank you so much. Born to win, born to be relevant, born to be a leader. And we will see you another time. But if you would like to watch Inspire, and if you would like to watch Celia Apeagyei, I think her details are scrolled down there. We need to get more of this. Thank you for being with us. And we're so glad we could have you on our program. God bless you.